From next class, you can start playing the third and fourth chapters. Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krito Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha Om Nama Pranavarthaya Shuddha Jnanaika Murtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Apyayantu Mamangani.
Om Apyayantu Mamangani.
Vak Prana Chakshu Shrutramato Balamindriyani cha Sarvani. Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam. Maham Brahma Nirakuryam. Mama Brahma Nirakarot. Anirakaranamastu me astu. Tadatmani nirate ya upanishatsu dharmaha. Temai santu. Even after doing a lot of Shravanam, there are three entities that Shastra keeps talking about. And sometimes doubts arise about which is which and what is the, how should we understand each one. And then we have all these Puranas and stories where we have a lot of these devas appearing. So how do we understand these? Having done adequate Shravanam, one can understand that there is only one Ekameva Advitiya Brahman. There really is nothing else. And I mean literally nothing else. No Guru, no Shishya, no nothing. No Deva, no Ishvara, nothing. And yet we have to account for them. Our learning process does not start from Ham Brahmosmi. We've seen that over and over again. Every Upanishad teaching never starts with Tattvamasi or Aham Brahmosmi, because what we know, what we can perceive is the Jagat. There is this world around us. And when we initially start examining that, we are examining that as I, the examiner, which is everything that is contained in this Sharira. Everybody does this. So when person A examines Jagat and say there is a Jagat, there is mountain, there are rivers, there is pain, there is pleasure, there is knowledge, there is ignorance, there are sentient things and insentient things. There are things which are accessible to me nearby, there are things which are very far away. And all these I know because I am the knower which is in the Sharira. So these have to be accounted for. So we have a variety of entities. Brahman is that formless, attributeless, indivisible, only on, without a second, and that I am. If it is only one, if it is indivisible, there is no second, and I know I exist because that's something I cannot refute. That indivisible one, that Ekameva Advitya Brahman has to be I. And yet, in the way one transacts in the world is there. If that is known, then nothing else is there. But everything is there. We are experiencing it, we are feeling it, we are perceiving it. We are being hurt by things, we are being gladdened by things. So a whole variety of things have to be understood and accounted for. There is the Jagat, which we initially start by saying, I am, and everything else is non-I. Everything else is external. A lot of issues in this kind of a statement assessment. Where does I end? Where does non-I start? So many ways be interpreted. One way of saying it is, everything is inside of this body, which is contained with the extremities of this body, is I. Everything else is either mine or not mine. My son, my spouse, my friend, my pen, my computer, that one is not mine. But there is confusion there also. Because we also say, my head aches. So where do you draw this line? We don't, there's confusion. We leave it at that. We say, okay, there's confusion. So we have this whole non-I concept in the Jagat. Those distant stars are non-I. This book right in front of me is non-I. The clothes I'm wearing are all non-I. What about my hair? Is that I or non-I? Every now and then, I cut out my hair. You're not cutting out I. But it is there. How did all this come about? Who created it? All these questions come because we give satta to all this. All this is real. They exist. Even though their existence is short-lived. They come, they go. everything. And in that category also is my body. It comes and it goes. My body. Who creates all this? Who makes all this appear? Who holds them? Into what does they do they resolve? Whoever creates these has to be sentient, has to be intelligent. Because everything we see around has been created very intelligently, has been put together extremely intelligently. Everything has a purpose, a function, and these functions are performed flawlessly. So somebody or some intelligence, some form of intelligence is creating all this. So you let your imagination go wild. You think there is a superior race which is creating all this. I'm only a puppet. There are supercomputers which are making all this happen. And then you have all these movies, no? Matrix. All that makes us believe that there is some other form of intelligence. Whatever form you give it, whatever form you imagine, there is an intelligence. Nobody can deny that. If we all have a concept of God, Ishvara, one who puts together this whole Jagat, who has the samarthyam to put together this whole Jagat, who is all powerful, all merciful. Therefore, we have a concept of God. Concept of a person A might be different from that of person B, but we all have a concept. Including the person who comes and says, I don't believe in God. He also has a concept in which he doesn't believe. And because our thinking is limited by what we learn, what we know within this Jagat, we tend to give that God a place to live. Heaven or Kailasha or Vaikuntha or whatever. We also attribute all power, omnipotent, omniscient, to that one entity. So there is this concept of God, Ishvara. It is still pretty complex, not very clear. Then we create many gods. Each person calls that in different ways. Somebody will say many saints, many angels. Somebody will say many devatas. There is what are all these devatas and what is Ishvara and what is Brahman? All stories are built around devatas. In some form, godlike creatures. From the point of view of understanding all of these in the right perspective, we define them. Brahman as attributeless, partless, non-created, non-dependent on time, non-dependent on space, not limited by any of these. You go the full circle and come back to understanding that that's the I, because there's nothing else. Then what do you, if that is a attributeless entity, how did this Jagat come about? So we invent Ishvara. It sounds like a blasphemous statement, but we do actually in our mind create an Ishvara by first creating an entity we call Maya. Does Maya exist? Starting from Maya, everything is neither self-existing nor tuchya, non-existing. Neither sat nor tuchya. Everything after that. Because we've created by making an assumption. So this Ishvara, which is non-different from Brahman, to whom we attribute all power, all strength, all knowledge, we say created this Jagat, sustains this Jagat. Jagat meaning everything else. And into which the entire thing resolves in time. So the difference we see between Brahman and that Ishvara is that Brahman is, there is no winding of Brahman by time, space or vastu. This Ishvara who we say created the Jagat, we imbue that with some properties, attributes, some qualities. Then from there, in every religion, we also create other entities. We call them devatas. Think of them like domain experts. They are powerful creatures, no doubt about it. Much more powerful than we are. But each devata has that extra power only in a limited area. Otherwise, they are as much part of what the jiva is, what we are. We give them a loka, a place to live and experience. Each has a loka. Because each is an expert in that sphere, his or her sphere, they have the collective strength of all the properties of that sphere. So eyes have a devata, we call Aditya. I have an individual eye or eyes. So has every other jiva. And there is one devata, presiding deity, which has all the power in that field. So if I have a certain issue with my eyes, which is an individual set of two eyes, I can either pray to Ishvara, because Ishvara I have already imbued with all power, all knowledge. or because my problem is a specific problem, I can pray to that Devata. In every structure, there is the one person where the buck stops. But there are also lots of delegated powers. If we have a problem with road lights not working in your street, you don't have to go to the chief minister saying 2 lights on my street are not working. There are others who have delegated power to fix it. Like that we have devatas. These people are no different from you. But in a particular area, they have some power. Unfortunately, in some cases, they misuse that power. Devatas are like that. Devatas have a form. Devatas have properties. And devatas have certain strengths. They are still part of the same jagat, same samsara. It's simply that in that particular area, in that particular domain, they have more power than the ordinary person does. We've seen in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, you've seen that you pray to any god in any form, all prayers go to Ishvara. And Ishvara is the one who then gives all the phala. But there's a conduit. It could be solved locally, it could be solved, taken up and solved, but it will be solved. I said these devatas are also part of the Jagat. They also have limited powers, limited knowledge, which is what we define a jiva as. Alpajna, alpashaktiman. They have a little bit more knowledge and more power in a particular area only. That's why I call them domain experts. No different from there. They have the same doubts that we have. Vichikitsa. We've seen in the Kenopanishad, when Nachiketa went and asked that there's a lot of doubt. Some say there is an atma after this body falls. Some say there isn't. There's a lot of vichikitsa. And he said, don't worry, you're not alone. All devatas have the same problem. They are all part of the same samsara. But they're extremely useful to try and understand what Upanishads are trying to say. What is the tattva of the Upanishad? We have seen already in the first and second chapters that it can be pretty complex. Paradoxes. How many of us can really understand it? In many places, both the Shastra as well as the Bhashyakara calls it Balaha, Udaha, because these are not easy to understand. That is why we have several levels of teaching. And some of them in the form of stories. How do you explain a value system to a child? Through a story. And to some extent, we all are in the same boat. Through stories. Devatas, like I said, they are powerful, knowledgeable in specific areas of expertise. When there are issues, ideas centered on this body-mind sense complex, it is called adhyatmika. The atmika. It means centered on. Whatever the Panchabhutas are there in this Sharira, in any form as elements or elementals, is also there outside this. Same thing is there. And we all understand this. We know that the physical body goes back to the earth as dust. Every religion recognizes this. Dust unto dust. We say Panchabhutas, go back to the Panchabhutas. So what is external, what is air outside is prana here. What is air outside becomes adibhuta, adibhautika, relating to the bhutas externally. Adhyatmakas, bhutas internally. Stula and Shukshma Sharira, individual Stula and Shukshma Sharira. So the Devata for that particular Adhibhuta is a presiding deity. In Tattva-bodha, details is given. How does every function take place in the Sharira, and who is the deity for it? Who is the presiding deity? Who is the Devata? So these Devatas, they can be helpful or they can be obstruction also. As much as our Adhibhuta can be helpful or they can be destructive for us. The Adhibhutas can also be helpful or not helpful. That's why we pray to them also. Please help me gain the status of readiness. But everything is controlled by the presiding deity. Ishvara, eventually. Adidaivam. Our Shanti addresses all three. Having understood that everything other than Ekameva Advitya Brahman is conditioned, is anatma. Everything has to be dependent on the Atma for its very existence. The Satta comes from there. They borrow their existence from that Satta. But the whole Jagat, while it cannot be summarily dismissed, can be classified as neither Satyam nor dismissible Tuchya. And into this category, anything that is mine falls. Anything that is not mine also falls. Therefore, my body, my mind, my senses, my anything is part of this. But the very existence of all of these, once it is understood clearly, indicates to us the existence of Satyam. A mistaken snake cannot be there without the adhisthana of the root. Nor can the snake be dismissed summarily. That snake causes reactions, although it is mithya. Just like every other mithya causes in us reactions. Can this be taken advantage of to understand what the Upanishad has been telling us in these statements which sound contradictory? He who knows doesn't know. He who doesn't know knows. What kind of statement is that? That Brahman has to be understood because it is different from what is unknown. It is also different from what is known. All these statements that are being made. Anyad aviditam, viditam adhi. Have to be correctly understood. And this student who said, Naham manye svedeti, nona vedeti vedacha. He perhaps was clear. And he also said, those who understand my statement, they know. But in the class, there are probably others who don't know. Some at least who don't know. How does Shastra help them to understand? So Shastra goes back to using the story format. Just like teaching values to children. Shastra says, Satyam Vada. Not a question in that statement. Why should I speak Satyam when I can see immediate benefit by not speaking Satyam? So you tell the story of Harishchandra. There is some value there. Here too, in this third chapter, Shastra resorts to telling us a story. Very nice story. In fact, when I first heard it, the reaction was people who do dance dramas. Wonderful story to do drama. Later found that people have done it. Use this to do Bharatanatyam or other forms of dance to create very nice visuals. Can you put on the third chapter? We'll read the first 2-3 verses. Brahma devebhyo vijigye.
Brahma devebhyo vijigye.
Tasya brahmano vijaye deva amahiyanta.
Tasya brahmano vijaye deva amahiyanta.
Ta aikshata. Asmakameva ayam vijayah.
Asmakameva vijayah.
Asmakamevam mahimeti.
Asmakamevam
Mahimeti, not mahimeti.
mahimeti.
Tad esham vijagnyau
tat yesham vijagnyau
tebhyoha pradurbhabhuva
tebhyoh pradubhavuva
tanna vyajanata
tannam vijanata
imidam yakshamiti.
timidam
Timidam
yakshamiti.
Yakshamiti.
In all these stories, or many of these stories, they are all between battle between devas and asuras. Devas generally accept Ishvara. Asuras generally say, I am the one who is doing all this. Devas accept Ishvara, pray to Ishvara. There is always this fight between devas and asuras. We've read so many of these Puranas stories. They also talk about the fact that this fight is constantly going on within us also. 16th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Devasura Sampat Vibhaga Yoga. We will be doing that in the Gita class. So there's always this constant fight going on. Sometimes Devas win, sometimes Asuras win. When Devas lose, they go running to Ishvara in one form or the other. So the stories will have Devas going to and pleading with Brahma Ji or Shiva or Vishnu or whatever. So this story background is this. There was this fight between Devas and Asuras, and Devas emerged victorious. But drunk with that victory, they forgot Parabrahman, Ishvara, Parmeshvara. They felt, wow, what a victory. We have defeated the Asura flat. We have not allowed them any quarter. But they forgot that anything they gain, they are as much as the Manushya, they have duties to perform. But the result don't belong to them. Karmanyevadikaraste ma phaleshu kathachana applies as much to them. And they were in a great mood celebrating. Did you see how I got rid of that fellow, that Asura? One shot. I knew exactly where to hit him. Such is my power. They forgot that their power is not their power. All borrowed power. Everything you can relate back to Bhagavad Gita. Whole 10th chapter is nothing but this. Any power you have, any mahima you have, anyone has, is borrowed. Any vibhuti we have, any glory we have, is borrowed. And every time we forget this, we get a tap on the head. Don't forget. You know, that example somebody was saying, when you reach a meeting on time, one talks about how carefully I planned my move, how I accounted for traffic problem, how I accounted for this potential problem, The time I need to walk from the parking lot to the office, dot 2:59 I was there, 3 o'clock was the meeting. I did. And on the day you don't reach the meeting on time, everybody else is to blame. Results are not in your hands. Results are Bhagavan. Ishvara Prasada. This, when the Devas forget, they also need to be given a tap on the head. He says, Brahma ha devebhyo vijigye. Very first opening sentence. Devebhya, for the sake of the Devas, for their benefit. Brahma vijigye. Brahman won a victory. The very statement is not Devas won a victory. For the Devas, Brahman, Ishvara won a victory over the Asuras. Brahma, indeed, it was Brahman who won the victory. In that victory, tasya brahmanaha vijaye, tasya vijaye, in that victory, brahmanaha devaha amahiyanta. All the devas going their glory. All the people say, oh, what a great. They themselves said, and others also appreciated. The devas, all the devas were celebrating and everybody was congratulating each other and everybody else was giving oblations. Wow, great devas, they won. They got glories. Amahiyanta. They gained, they were given glories. They were showered with glories. All that went to their head. For God, Ishvara. Because then they said, Te Aikshanta. In that glorification, basking in that, Te Aikshanta, they said, they considered, they thought, Asmakam eva ayam vijaya. This victory is ours. We did this. We gained the victory. We planned so carefully. I planned so carefully to reach on time at 3 o'clock on the dot. Did you? Of course, you do your work, your bit. Without that, you will not gain. You know, I'm a salesman. Every quarter after quarter, I've been exceeding my targets. Did you? What happened the next quarter when you fell? Short of your target. Things were really bad. You know? There was a war in Ukraine. So I couldn't make my sale target. All these devas. That's why I said devas are no different from you and I. Except that they have certain more powers in certain areas. At the end of this life, this jiva can also be born a deva, depending upon the punya. Te aikshanta asmakam eva ayam vijaya. This victory is ours. I don't know, they were having a party, Agni, Vayu, all the devatas, with Soma in their hand, by maybe, I don't know. Boasting, we won this victory. Asuras didn't stand a chance. Asmakam eva ayam vijaya. Asmakam eva ayam mahimeti. Mahima, this whole glory is all ours. Look at all these people there. See, they're all sending oblations and congratulatory messages and saying, wow, You guys are great. All the glory belongs to us. Also, the very first sentence they said, for them, Brahma Vijigye. Gained that victory. They forgot that they have no rights over the phala. Now, I don't know. When Ishvara sees this happening, one could wake up, wake up, wake up. This is not your doing. You have to do what you have to do. It's not your doing. Brahma devebhyo hi ha vijigye. Tad ha yesham vijagnyau. Brahman, in this case, Brahman is Ishvara, Parameshvara. Knowing and seeing their vanity. Where they have forgotten all they probably learnt earlier. That ha esham vijagnyau tebhyo tebhyaha ha pradur bhabhuva. Rameshwara appeared in front of them. All the fellows are having party, congratulating each other, patting each other on the back. And Parameshwara appears in a form. Doesn't have a form. He is Brahman. But just to bring them down a notch and say, hey, you're forgetting something, think. Brahma appeared. Pradur Bhabhuva in front of them. They saw this. And that Brahman appeared in the form of a yaksha. Pradur Bhabhuva tat na vyajanata kimidam yakshamiti. He appeared in the form of yaksha. Yaksha is a celestial being. Even devas, we speak all celestial from the point of view of our perspective. There are many forms of, other than Manushya, there are Gandharva, there are Kinnaras, all kind of forms are there discussed in the Shastras. This yaksha appeared in a form which they probably had not seen before. Tat na vyajanata. They did not know who this yaksha was. All devas, in fact, the meaning of deva is effulgent being. Dev. All of them are, from our perspective, effulgent beings. Incidentally, all the senses are also called deva. And this yaksha, Brahman appeared in the form of yaksha, which they had, this which form they had not seen before. Obviously, it must have been some very extraordinary form, some kind of a glowing form, some kind of a effulgent form, which even the devas had not seen. Devas, like I said, remember always that they are only special in some ways. Even Bhagavan in the 11th chapter says, even devas can't see me in this Vishwarupa form. Only I am giving you special powers, Divya Chakshu, for you to see this form. Even devas can't see it. Like that, this form that Yaksha appeared in Devas had no idea who this Yaksha was. Tat na vyajanata kimidam yaksham. Who is this Yaksha? Now remember, these Devas are all at the height of their imagined glory. So any external person coming in the midst of their party, they would say, who is this? The gate crasher. Who is this fellow who's come here? They didn't know who it was. They saw this effulgent form, Yaksha. This Yaksham na vyajana. Kimidam Yaksham. Kimidam Yaksha. So what do they do? The story only talks about 3 characters. There are probably many, many more of these devas there. But the story talks about 3 characters. Indra, who is the king of all devatas. He is the king of Indraloka. Agni, the deva of sight, sitting gate of sight. Deva, which has the property of light and heat, can burn anything. And Vayu. This Agni is also inside. It's like Adhyatmikam, the same Agni is there inside. The temperature in the body is the Agni. Jఠaragni is also Agni. And prana, and prana, Vayu. Talks about only 3 things. Vayu is the air outside, very powerful. Pavakaha, it also cleanses. Both Agni and Vayu are considered great Pavakaha. When we dry our clothes, traditionally, we don't like to dry it in a dryer. Although it may become dry in the dryer, unless you put it out in the sun, where the Pavakaha properties of the fire, sun, and Vayu cleanse them. And once they cleanse them, the very traditional people will not allow anybody to touch it. Madi. You might have seen in your childhood your grandmother hanging it dry till a kudila. And with a stick, she will take it out. After that, you can't touch because it has been cleansed. Both Agni and Vayu are extremely powerful in their own spheres and have the property of cleansing everything, one through fire, other through Vayu. So all these devatas who were there, they wanted to find out who this Yaksha was. So they decided to send Agni. Go and find out who this was. Can we read the next verse? We have not read that verse. Te Agnim Abruvan Jata Veda Etat Vijanihi Kim Etat Vijanihi
Kim
Kim Idam Yakshamiti Tatha Iti Tatheti Abruvan. Abruvan means they told. Substance. They told, all of them, all the other devatas probably there, told whom? Agnim. told Agni, Abruvan, He Jataveda. Agni is also Jataveda. He Jataveda, Yetat Vijanihi. Please find out. Find out what? Kim Yetat Yaksham iti. Who is this Yaksha? Who is this fellow who is standing outside, who seems to be different from everything we knew? Go and find out. You are a powerful Devata. Go talk to him and find out who this Yaksha is. He said, okay. Agni said, Tatha. Okay. So it be, I'll find out. Remember, they're all in a state of great elation, great self-importance. So Agni, chest full out, goes to the Yaksha, confronts him. And we will see what happens to Agni when he goes to the Yaksha with all full of all the self-importance tomorrow. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.